Do you see EVs as being a sustainability play? To what extent does your strategy dovetail with and take some sort of cognizance of the national renewable energy kind of conversation? Or do you just see EVs as being just another car model, just something that you can sell into a growing market for individual personal vehicles?
EVs are clearly a sustainability play, but it has to be merged with renewable energy. A car in its lifetime will have 35 tons of energy or 35 tons of carbon that it emanates. That 35 tons gets down only to 27 with EVs. But with renewable charging or renewable energy, it goes down to 7. And that's where the real play is. So it clearly is a big step forward in sustainability. And that's one of the reasons we are driving it. That said, from a consumer standpoint, it has to be a lot more than that. It has to offer the value proposition that's superior to other options they have in the market today at a price that they consider is fair for that value proposition.
I mean, the reason I asked the question is because the sustainability credibility of any vehicle depends upon a number of factors, one of which being it's got to be small, it's got to be efficient. At the moment, everyone's focusing on building SUV EVs, which themselves, the bigger the car, obviously, the less sustainable it is and the less competitive it is in sustainability metrics against an ordinary combustion engine vehicle. So are you focusing on ideas like building smaller EVs in order to persuade the market that actually the value of the EV is in its sustainability function rather than its value as a mobility vehicle? And then to the good question Will asked, because the whole process of developing the infrastructure to support individual vehicles is itself unsustainable. You're building car parks, you're building roads, you're spending a lot of money on concrete. So the entire ecosystem of personal mobility is dependent upon these things. So again, I just ask you, are you focusing on building EVs or electric scooters, which would be much more sustainable?
So the consumer is going to decide. There are consumers who would buy electric scooters over other scooters. The question is, would they buy it over cars or SUVs that they would like? So our focus is to offer them choices and offer them choices that may be better than the choices they have today from a climate standpoint and in a manner that creates a better value proposition for them. Besides EVs, we also have a large portfolio in electric three-wheelers, and we've got a 65% market share there. So looking at last mile, from both a cargo and a passenger standpoint, we're really looking to transform the country from an EV standpoint, and that's happening very rapidly.
I want to return very quickly, if I could, to the sustainability question, because you're part of CNBC's Sustainability Council, and you're going to go to the next COP meeting, I believe, which is going to be, very, very important for global sustainability issues. I just wonder whether there is not a case to be made by car manufacturers themselves to governments to say, look, you need to think about legislating about the size of EVs, because SUV EVs are a contradiction in terms in so many ways. And I understand what you said about it's a consumer choice, but to a certain extent, consumer choice is also dictated by policy, is dictated by government thinking. So is there a case for companies like yours to go to COP and say, look, we need global consensus on the nature of electric vehicles in a sustainability frame?
So here I'd question the assumption around size. It will make some difference, but not a huge difference. On the ICE side, yes, there's a much larger difference given the size of engine, etc. But here you can have SUVs with much lower battery sizes as well. So from that perspective, the delta is not very high. And therefore, if you look at what are the largest drivers, there are multiple other areas. And we've been at the forefront of that, not just at COP, but at Climate Week in the US with the World Economic Forum. We've been one of the founding members of the various alliances at the World Economic Forum as well, including the First Movers Coalition, which is looking at greening our supply chain. We've been working with our vendors to really help them do a number of things that will help bring down the overall carbon footprint. So as we look at our roadmap, we've committed to being carbon neutral by 2040. And not just that, but also water positive and zero waste to landfill. Across multiple businesses, some them will get there earlier. So we've been looking very closely at what are all the key drivers and how do we take those drivers forward and be able to make a tangible difference in the space.